and welcome to another episode of High Heel Hallelujah. Today, I am going to talk about battles in life and how my angels helped me in New York. But first, let's look at the shoes.
All right, these are the heels of the day. And no, my husband actually did not buy these for me for once. These are a pair just from Target, and I think it's Massimo. But I did buy these one day. I don't really shop for myself, but of course I go to Target. So one of the purchases as I walked by were these shoes. And they are just a simple strappy heel. Let's tie this in to what I will be talking about. Yes, you can do battle in shoes that are with a heel. We have our ways. But even though my husband didn't buy me these shoes, he did paint my nails for me. So there we go. That's his handiwork. So anyway, let's talk about battles, my angels, and I hope you'll stick with it for the end when I walk in the shoes.
All right, you might notice that I talk about things that have a common theme often, and it's always because it's something that I am personally going through in my life or have gone through or get to revisit regularly. So one of those areas is the battles of life, and I wanted to share with you some of my past battles and how various things have changed over time in regards to how I handle those battles. And I could go on and on. I'm hoping that my story does not get too belabored, but I want you to hear my story about my angels in New York because that ties greatly into my whole theme of what I'm trying to talk about. But the thing that I've noticed with the battles of life is that we get to keep facing them, okay? They're never going to be completely out of our lives. So just when you think you're done with one, there's going to be something else. And that's kind of just the nature of life anyway. But we need to gear up and think about things differently. And we need to start from a position of realizing that the victory has actually already been won. Now, if you know that the overriding theme is that Satan's always going to try to steal your joy, steal any testimony that you have, take away any bit of life that you have. If you realize that that's what's always kind of going on, you don't necessarily have to always be in a fighting mode, but you do need to stand in a place of authority. Authority meaning that you know that Jesus already won this battle ultimately. And so the victory is already yours. So when we just stand in a position of authority, and we don't concentrate so much on the fear of the battle and the dealing with that, but we refocus and look at the one who already won the battle, it changes our perspective completely. I know this is kind of a goofy metaphor, but I purposely put on my army looking dress today with high heels because, well, first of all, I'm going to work, but the second reason is, and I'm going to the military base today even, but the second reason is because we can take a position of authority, fighting my battle, but we can do it in a position of authority, meaning I didn't have to put on army boots. I can still fight my battle in heels because Jesus ultimately won this battle. And so it's easier that way. I don't have to necessarily have those army boots that are so tough in their own strength. I can't be strong in my own strength. I have to lean on God. So I'm going to tell you my angel story. So back when I was a student still trying to get into PA school for my medical training, I was I had gone through a period of time where I didn't know what I wanted to do. Then I had quite a few years of trying to take all the prerequisite classes in order to get into a program for PA school. So there was a lot going on with working and trying so hard. And I got to a point where I was being interviewed by PA schools. And I really wanted to stay where I live and go to school, but that school was making their decision the last of all the other schools. So I knew that I needed to go interview at some of these other schools. So I flew out to the East Coast and I was in New Haven for Yale, and Yale was interviewing me for their PA program. Well, knowing I was going to be there for just a weekend, a short period of time, and knowing that I had flown a long way, I wanted to try to pack it in during that time that I was there. So, the beginning and the end of this is so long, but I'm going to try to make it really short. So, I flew to New Haven, tiny, tiny little airport. Keep in mind, this was a lot of years ago, too. And this is also before cell phones and navigation, so keep that in mind. And I flew out to New Haven, and it was very late at night when I got off the airplane down into snow. And here I am unprepared, wearing not the most warm and appropriate clothes because that I don't live in an area that snows. And I walk down into snow, go try to find my bag in the outdoor kind of like covered baggage claim, go to get my rental car where there is one agent working, and she gives me this gigantic car. And I'm like, all right, whatever, it doesn't matter. But these are the days of maps. So I get in my car with a map trying to find my hotel. Well, I'm driving through dark neighborhood streets trying to find my way to the hotel, and I'm hearing a ka-thunk, 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 and I'm going, what could that be? My brother's a mechanic and I did not learn much. Well, I had a flat tire and it was dark, middle of nowhere, no phone because we didn't have cell phones back then. So I'm thinking, I'm in the middle of nowhere. What in the world am I going to do? Well, actually, I looked up and no, I was not in the middle of nowhere. I was in front of a bar, and it is dark and late and it's snowing. So I see a payphone in front of the bar. I go over to the payphone, out of order. Great. So I go into the bar. I ask the bartender if I can use his phone behind the counter. He lets me. But in the meantime, one of the gentlemen that was in the bar overheard me talking on the phone and said, I'll go change your tire for you. And I'm thinking, oh my word. So we go out in the snow. Snow is coming down. He's trying to put this gigantic car up on the jack, but it's a jack for a compact car. So the car keeps falling off the jack over and over, and I'm thinking this guy is not going to last. He's going to give up on me. He's going to want to go back and finish his beer. And he just kept going and going, and he finally got the spare on there. But when I called the lady at the rental place, she said, I'm the only one here, and there is nobody to come and get you. There is nobody to rescue you. You need to somehow get that car back. Well, thank the Lord, he sent my first angel who took upon himself to get that car fixed for me. Then he says, I am going to drive in my car and make sure you get back to the car rental place. Well, you know, those little red flags are going off like, what does this guy want from me? But I didn't really have a lot of choices, so I followed behind him over to the car rental place, exchanged cars, then he says, now I'm going to drive in front of you to take you to the hotel. And I'm thinking, oh boy, all right, well, let's just go with it and hope and pray for the best. And so we get to the hotel. He literally puts my bag on the elevator and he says, I hope that you have a great trip. And I'm pulling out my checkbook because I didn't even carry that much cash with me. And I'm like, let me pay you for all your time. He said, nope, I don't want anything. I just hope that you have a great trip. and he left. And I was like, God, that was you. There is no other explanation. How else would I have survived this? Battle number one, I didn't have to do a whole lot. God totally handled it for me. Next thing comes up, I do my interview and everything's great. Then I decide that since I'm as far as New Haven, I'm going to drive into New York City to visit my girlfriend who lives on Central Park in one of the high-rise buildings. And I'm going to go visit her, and we're going to spend Friday night on the town. She tells me, do not drive a car into New York. I don't drive in New York. I don't even own a car. You need to take the subway, but if you take the subway, you're going to need to leave before dark because it won't be safe for you. I'm like, why would I come all this way to go home before dark on a Friday night? Let's do this thing. So, of course, you know, when you're young. Oh boy. So I grab all my maps, and at every toll road, I ask the person in the toll booth, am I on the right path? My map shows this. And they're like, oh, no, you need to go this way. And then the next toll booth tells me another thing. No, you need to go this way. And I'm thinking, oh my goodness. Okay, so I spent at least quadruple the amount of time that it should have taken to get to my friend, trying to go here, there, and everywhere without a cell phone, without navigation, following people's directions, trying to look at a map. I call out to a guy that's walking down a sidewalk, and I'm like, am I close to Central Park? And he says, girl, you're in Jersey. I'm like, New Jersey? I was just in New York a few minutes ago. How'd I get into New Jersey? So here I am all over the place like a crazy lady. Every time I thought about getting out to get to a payphone, it looked really sketchy. And it turns out that I was like in all the worst neighborhoods. So finally, I get to a bridge where there is a fork in the bridge. And one way says that it's taking me to Manhattan where I knew I needed to go. And the other way said George Washington Bridge, and that's what everybody kept telling me I needed. And so I'm thinking, do I go towards Manhattan or do I take the George Washington Bridge? I don't know what to do. And I'm thinking, now we're in Friday night rush hour traffic. It's like 5 o'clock. What the heck? I mean, if I make a wrong choice, it's going to be forever till I can get myself back to this fork in the road to make the other choice, right? So I see that a cop has just pulled somebody over past the fork in the road, and so I pull up behind him, and he comes over, and the first thing he says is, that purse on the seat, put it under the seat or you're leaving without it, and lock your doors. And I'm like, okay. He says, I'm going to give this person their ticket, and then I will come back. So he comes back, and I give him my sob story of what's been going on, and he says, it's fine. I will help you. I will get you squared away, but let's talk about the directions. And then he had me write them down, and then he had me recite them back to him. And through all of this, I'm realizing I need to be on the other side of that fork in the bridge. And I'm thinking, oh my heavens. I said, sir, I know how to get there now, but there's no way I'm going to find my way back to this point again. And he's like, don't worry about that right now. I want you just to tell me if you understand where you're going. And I said, yeah, I do. But I don't know how I'm going to get. Don't worry about that part. I've already got that covered. You just remember where you need to go from here. And this is a metaphor, if you hadn't noticed, as I'm slowing down. God doesn't want you to worry about all of that stuff in the past. He wants you to listen to what he's asking you to do now. He handles the part of the battle that we can't handle. He just asks us to go where he tells us to go. All right, so all these lanes of traffic, Friday night, 5 o'clock, and this police goes, stops all of the lanes of traffic, and lets me back my little car up, and do a little U-turn and go on my way. Yeah, an angel in New York with a police uniform on. Unbelievable how God provided in that time. And this is what I want you to hear for your life. God will fight your battles. We can sometimes be very lost and confused by these battles. It is so easy to feel overwhelmed. It's so easy to look at all the things that we don't know how to handle, but God, He steps in. There are times that He tells us to be still, just like that police officer said, be still. You don't need to do anything about that. I've got it handled. There are times that God is going to tell us, you need to move in this direction, and this is what I want you to do. And then we need to obediently do it. And of course, I wasn't going to magically end up in Manhattan without actually moving and doing what the directions were that He gave me. But up to that point, if I dwelled on all the stuff that I had behind me and all the mistakes and all the wrong turns and all of that, then I would never get to where I needed to be. And this is what God wants for you to realize too, that He wins the battle for you. You just need to step in to what He is doing and put on your army clothes, wear your high heels or whatever else. But be willing to step out when He tells you to step out, and rest when He tells you to rest. And then He takes care of all the details, okay? I do have a little ending to this story. So yes, I finally found my friend, and immediately she said, let's go use your car and drive around, because normally I can't. And I'm thinking, oh my gosh, you want me to get back in that car? So we get back in my car and we decide we're going to go out on the town. Well, unfortunately, she didn't know where we left the car. I didn't recognize the car, nor did I understand where we were. So by the end of the night, we didn't know where the car was. And it's one of those cars that looks like every other car, and they didn't have a little automatic key unlock thing so that your car lights would go off and notify you that that's your car as you walk by. So here I am searching for a car that I don't recognize, with a license plate that I don't know, with a key, but I don't know what lock it fits. And we're going up and down streets. And God provided again, with a friend of hers happened to be driving by, drove us around until we finally found the car. And yes, I survived, and I lived to tell about it. And I ended up at the PA school that I originally wanted to go to in my own hometown anyway, but it made for a great story. It made for a great testimony. It reminded me that God always has angels and that He's fighting our battles. And I wanted to share with you a bit of the Bible that I think would be very appropriate from Psalm 37. Do not be agitated by evildoers. Do not envy those who do wrong, for they wither quickly like grass and will like tender green plants. Trust in the Lord and do what is good. Dwell in the land and live securely. Take delight in the Lord, and He will give you your heart's desires. Commit your way to the Lord. Trust in Him, and He will act, making your righteousness shine like the dawn, your justice like the noonday. Be silent before the Lord and wait expectantly for Him. Do not be agitated by one who prospers in his way, by the person who carries out evil plans. I'm going to jump ahead. A person's steps are established by the Lord, and He takes pleasure in his way. Though he falls, he will not be overwhelmed, because the Lord supports him with His hand. Turn away from evil, do what is good, and settle permanently. For the Lord loves justice and will not abandon His faithful ones. They are kept safe forever, but the children of the wicked will be destroyed. The righteous will inherit the land and dwell in it permanently. So we know that God already has the battle won. We can look around and see that there's a lot of other people that are doing things their own way, but we can rely on the fact that He ultimately has the victory and He knows the path, and we just step into it with Him. So I hope that that speaks to you in some way today. I would love to hear from you if it does. If you like this kind of video, if you don't mind giving me a thumbs up, you may not believe what I believe. That is totally fine. Any thumbs down, I actually pray extra for you. So I pray that you all have a wonderful day, wonderful life, and that every moment that you have, you can see it from God's perspective. And if you don't, I don't always either, we can quickly get back into the place of victory because we know that we have God's power living in us. So go out and live the best life you can on fire.
All right, we have to do the walk, but stay with me for the outtake at the very end. You might crack up like I did. What's that all about?